welcome to DIY with Nancy. Hope you're all doing well. Well, the holiday season's coming around the corner, and that means extra baking. That means I'm going to be baking a little bit more than I do normally throughout the year. And one of the things that I normally eat in the holiday season is pignolata, which is something that my mother-in-law makes and has on the table every Christmas Eve. And it's a dessert that everybody loves and enjoys, and once you start eating, you can't stop. And pignolata is basically fried dough made out of eggs and flour, and it's mixed up with honey. So delicious, and like I said, you can't stop eating it once you start. So today I'm going to make pignolata, and I hope you stay with me to watch how to make it step by step. To get started, using the food processor, I'm going to make the dough. And I'm going to place 540 milliliters of all-purpose flour in the food processor. Next, I'm moving on to adding the next ingredient, which is the eggs. I have 3 large eggs, which I'm going to beat slightly before I add it to the food processor. Okay, now I'm ready to pulse together the egg and the flour until it comes together and forms a dough. Now I'm going to check on the dough, and I want to make sure it's firm enough where I can roll it. So I'm pinching it together between my fingers and it's perfect. Now if it's too wet, add a little more flour. And if it's too dry, just beat up a small egg and add it gradually. Now moving on to the next step, you want to take some all-purpose flour, set it aside, and dust your working surface. Now also, this is another way where you can add the additional flour if you find that your dough is too wet. Now I'm going to knead the dough on the surface with flour. Just going to slightly dust the working surface and knead the dough for about 2 to 3 minutes. Now I'm simply going to place some plastic wrap onto the dough, formed it into a disc, wrap it up, and let it set for about 15 minutes. Just let it sit on your counter and let it rest. Now the dough's been resting for about 15 minutes, and now I'm ready to roll the dough. Now I'm ready to cut the pieces of dough and roll it into very thin logs, if you will. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, I had a head start on rolling them, but what I did is I took a piece, and now you can see that I'm starting from the middle and I'm rolling it out. So I'm pushing it out as I'm rolling the long piece of dough. So I'll show you exactly how thin. The thinner the better, because these do expand when you fry them in the oil. Now here is a close-up of the thin strips of dough that I have rolled out, and I've just gently placed them onto a tablecloth. And now on to the next step. Once you have your thin strips of dough rolled out, you want to cut them into small pea-sized pieces, just as I'm doing here. Now you can see that once I cut all the small pea-sized pieces, I'm placing it aside, and make sure you spread them out so they don't stick together, just as they are here. Now for the next step, we're going to place oil just about a quarter full of the pan. This is a deep pan that I'm going to be frying it in, and I have vegetable oil. Now I'm placing enough oil to coat the dough while it's frying. You don't want to place too much because it will overflow while you're frying. You have to be very careful. Now you want to turn your stove on to a low to medium heat to warm up the oil to about 350 degrees. Now I want to make sure the oil is hot enough. If you don't have a thermometer, just do a little test and just place a little piece of the dough into the oil, just as I'm going to do here. Now if you see that the dough pops up and it's frying, it's ready. I'm placing the first batch of dough in the fry pan. Very important, you want to place small batches because the dough will double in size and it can overflow. So you want to be very careful. Now, while the dough is frying, you want to make sure you slightly turn them over, just as I'm doing it here. And when it's lightly golden brown, I like it crispy brown, but if you prefer it lightly golden brown, then you can remove it and place it in a bowl with paper towel. Just perfect. Look at that. They're nice, crispy, and crunchy. Now I've completely fried all my batches of dough and I'm ready to place the honey. Now, I have here a medium-sized saucepan with about 1.5 cups of honey. And I'm going to place the honey into the saucepan, just as I'm doing here. Once the honey is in the saucepan, you're going to place your heat on a low to medium heat. I'm going to wait until the oil starts bubbling, and then I'm ready to place the fried dough into the honey. After 2 to 3 minutes being over the heat, I have my honey that's sizzling and bubbling. So I'm going to place about 2 to 3 spoonfuls of the fried dough into the saucepan. Now all there's left to do is to mix the fried dough in the honey. And I'm just using a spoon here to gently coat the honey onto the fried dough. I want to make sure it's evenly coated. Okay, I've been mixing the fried dough in the honey for about 1.5 minutes or so. It's evenly coated, and now I'm ready to move on to the last and final step. Okay, I have everything ready to set up the pignolata. Here I have some almonds that I've roasted and I've chopped up in little pieces. I have sprinkled candy in different colors that I'll also be using as a topping. And here I have a bowl of water, and I'm going to be using that to place the water onto the parchment paper before I place the fried dough with the honey, because the honey, first, it's really hot, and second, it's very sticky. So I'm going to start off by just setting the bowl of water aside. Now be very careful because it's extremely hot. Now I'm simply just placing the dough onto the piece of parchment paper, which I'm going to form into a ring. So it's going to have a hole in the middle, and of course I'm going to show you how to make it step by step. Now let's start assembling. So I'm going to place my hands into the water because the dough is hot, the honey is hot. So all I'm simply doing is spreading it out, forming it into a ring with a hole in the middle, just as I'm doing here. Now you can place a cup, but the way my mother-in-law showed me, she did this all on her own and formed it into a perfectly shaped pignolata, just as I'm doing here. Next, you're going to place your topping. My favorite, roasted almonds. I'm going to place them gently right on the top. And here you have it, pignolata with roasted almond topping. And for my second pignolata, I'm placing some nice colorful sprinkles right on top. I have some extra dough, and what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to form some balls. I have some cupcake liners, foil. I'm really getting festive. I have silver and gold, and all I'm going to simply do is form some balls, shape them into my hands, and then place them onto the cupcake liners. And of course, for topping, I'm going to drizzle some sprinkles right on top. Okay everyone, that was the recipe for pignolata that I made, that was shown to me by my mother-in-law, who has all the patience in the world, and I love her for that. Thank you so much, Ma, for showing me how to make pignolata. Super delicious. And like I said, you can use the roasted almonds on the top, or you can use the colorful candy. You can even use the red, white, and green for the holidays. You can even leave the fried dough without the honey. Tastes just as good, and there's no sugar added, except of course, the honey on the top. I just want to thank again my mother-in-law, Enza, for showing me how to make pignolata, and I want to thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the recipe, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, everyone, thanks so much for watching. Take care. Nice and crunchy.